right, good evening, and welcome to another live with HanifahNailah. I am HanifahNailah, and we are here again for another Friday. Don't forget, this month we are focused solely on healing ourselves as individuals, healing ourselves as a collective, and tonight is no different. I have a really special guest that is going to come and talk about a different approach to healing. Last week we went with the spoken word and poetry, and tonight we're gonna take a different approach to healing. So, as usual, if you guys are here, let me know you're here. Do not be shy. Do not lurk in the clouds. Okay, we are very friendly over here. So make sure you let us know that you are here so that we can acknowledge you. I love to engage with you guys. And as other people come in, I'm going to swing back around and do this all over again. And as usual, just for some quick housekeeping, if you have not and you're new to the platform, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button. If you're interested on where you can find me on social media, I'm trying to do a better job. Okay, yeah, save y'all judgments. But you can check me on Instagram at the real HanifahNailah. And if you are feeling generous tonight, no pressure. My Cash App handle is always at the bottom. That way, I don't have to deal with anyone asking for it in the chat. We already have one person in the house with us, so I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge her. Hey sis, she says, "Hey sis, hey sis." Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming through and supporting as usual. You are much, much appreciated. But I am not going to delay because I am very excited to get right into this conversation. So, without further delay, I am going to bring my guest up, introduce her to you guys. Actually, I'm going to let her tell you all about herself, but I'm going to bring her up so you guys can see her in her beautiful spirit and her beautiful face. Hi, Kamilah. How are you? Welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, sis.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for blessing me with your presence. I appreciate it. I'm always grateful for guests because I know that we all have lives and we all have things going on and you could be anywhere else, but you kind of give me a little piece of that time. So I'm always grateful for that. So thank you for that. How are you feeling today? You look beautiful. How are you feeling?
I feel present.
Mm.
Feel grateful, and ready for whatever this moment has to offer to everyone that is here now and will be here later. So I'm present.
Yes.
Mhm.
So Camilla, let me tell you why I invited you, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Sure.
So I try to do different conversations, and this month, because it's the end of the Gregorian calendar year, and we know how that go for a lot of people. Everybody's trying to kind of like introspect, kind of like assess like things that they may need to change. And so for me, I'm just like, I want to go into the new calendar year. I want to bring people in on that energy because most of our people are on that energy. And so I'm like, let's do a whole month dedicated to just healing.
Mm.
And so I was thinking of different people to bring on and the different approaches. And so I have one brother, of course, therapy is kind of like a buzzword right now. And he does specifically talk therapy. So I wanted to definitely bring him on. But I also know that talk therapy is not the only approach to healing, even though it's like a hot button topic. Like everyone is talking about it. Therapy is the new sexy and so forth. I know better. I know that, our ancestors had their own way when there was no such thing as a therapist, right? How
Yeah.
were they dealing with their traumas, their hurt, their pain, when their men went out to war and come back, when they, had feuds in the community, how did they process that? What did that look like? And so I am aware that there are different approaches. I don't even want to say alternatives, like it's this other thing. Because I think all of it is one, right?
Okay.
And so I was like, let me reach out to this sister and ask, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna ask you a question about something that kind of you had like a little viral moment, and I so want you to talk about that as well. And I'll tell you what it was because it was two of them, but it was specifically dealing with the men.
Right.
healing our men. Lord have mercy. And so I follow you on social media, and I'm like, I like her energy. You always have people follow you, but silently. And it's like, I like this sister's energy. I resonate. And I think you're Aries, aren't you?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I am.
So and so that's kind of why I invited you on, because I like the work that you do, as much as you show online, because I know that's not everything, because everything is
Right.
public consumption. So that's sort of why I wanted to invite you in. And so I'm very, very grateful. I'm excited. Like you said, I'm excited to which direction we're gonna go in. What
Well,
what's going to be on the table, what are we going to be eating tonight. Like, I'm so excited about that. So once again, I'm very, very grateful to have you here.
for
um
sure.
and I'm already excited. But before I jump into you telling us a little bit about yourself and how what you do and how you got into this work, let me make sure I acknowledge those who just came in the room. We have Anne. She says, "Hey, at HanifahNailah." Hey, Anne. Good to see you, sis. Thanks for passing through and showing your love. We have Crypto Vault. He says, "Hello there, sisters. Hello
Thank
there, brother. Thank you for passing through and showing us some love." Anne is giving you some love. Kamilah, she says, "Hey, at Kamilah, KaMaat." Now, can I call you Kamilah or Kamilah?
However it flows from your tongue. I don't want to tell you what to do.
Okay, Camilla.
Yeah,
Camilla.
I say, however it
Okay.
flows from your tongue is fine with me.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, what are you, because you have a whole list, and I did not want to read through everything that you do. But I prefer for you to tell us what you do and how you got into this work.
Mm. Oof. It is a list. It's a book. Um, ooh. What I do is obedience,
Okay.
you know, obedience to a call that I knew came through for me, just for me. Um, and in so many words, is me providing what I've given to myself to the community because I know it worked for me.
Okay.
So it's nothing that, I've had to go to school for, or had to be certified in. My life journey, my personal journey, my personal testimony is what has lined me up for the work that I'm doing.
Mhm.
Um, so it started with, hosting women's circles. This wasn't something that I put out an event, like nowadays it's trending. Sister circles, women's circles, all kind of circles, ceremony circles, everything is trending now. Everybody is wanting to be a facilitator. Everybody's wanting to be at the front line of, hosting space for other people. But for me, I didn't initiate myself into it. I was called, you know what I mean? The
Mhm.
people me by recognizing, my work, with myself.
Mhm.
Um, and so just in doing that, people want to come and study with me, want to know, what do you believe in? What is your practice? What is your religion? And at that time, I didn't really have an answer. I just knew that I was a student and, my mind had been opened in a place where I wasn't limiting my experience or what I was studying or practicing anymore. I just wanted to know truth. And
Mhm.
so in me studying truth, I began to share truth in my own interpretation online. And so my online platform became like a ministry where I would just share my own interpretation and perspective of what it was that I was studying. And this time it was like 2011, I was studying and decoding the Bible and
Mm.
share my interpretations of the Bible. So everybody that was on my page back then was Christian. So the way that I would share my interpretations, everybody be like, okay, now this is different. I never heard it like this. I never thought about it like this. So they saw that I took it a little deeper, which made them inquire, I want to study with you. So that's how my sisterhood started. It
Okay.
started doing Bible studies, and just, decoding and praying and eating together, that's how it started. And so, from there to now, all it's done is evolve because I've evolved and the sisters that's coming in, they putting in the work with themselves and they're evolving too. So from, hosting space for my sisters, I open a space just for us to come together to heal. In the beginning, my focus was women,
Okay.
and it expanded out to the brothers, and then it expanded out into just community. So anybody, it can be elders, it can be children, it can be newborns, it can be anybody.
Mhm.
I did readings in the beginning. Readings wasn't something that I wanted to do. Nowadays everybody's a tarot reader, everybody's a reader. I had no interest in it, but this was something that, was divine to me,
Mm-hmm.
that was song for me to do. So I didn't do it until I was called. I didn't do it because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. I did it because I was called. So that's why I say what I do is obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that I do, I heard to do it. Not I'm telling myself, oh, this is what I want to do. The only thing
Mm-hmm.
I do was to be used. I wanted to be a vessel. I wanted to use my voice. I wanted to be of service. And that's exactly what I got, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then after opening up community space, it put me in a position of becoming a doula. I've always been someone that could see things before they happen. So I've seen children coming through before they get here, before their parents know they're pregnant with them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that put me in a position of being like another mother to the children that are coming through. So the parents will want me to be present for the children's birth. So that's how I got initiated into being a doula. I never said I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be a doula. So everything I do, the community called for me to do it. Anything that I put myself in the position of doing, I was just doing the work, and that alone put me in a position to do it even more. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I did become certified in Reiki
Okay.
through Raseki with Kajara in Atlanta. That was really beautiful. But even
Mm-hmm.
in that, I realized that I always had the gift, but I definitely wanted to allow myself to be a student. You know what I mean? And allow myself to learn from someone that I felt like, I could trust in the community that could be an elder for me. So I did go through certifications with Raseki for Reiki. Um, I mean, if you have questions, I have answers, but
No, I know. I know because when I was looking at your like all the different things that you do, I know you have Reiki. I know you do spiritual life coaching.
yes,
Um, you said cleansing ceremonies, which we're gonna get
yes,
into all of this retreats.
ooh, yes,
What else you said? Sound healing, plant
yes,
medicine. There's a whole lot guided meditation, and I feel like so all of the things that I read about you, I'm thinking that they all like some people may look at someone's title and think like, oh my gosh, you wear so many hats without understanding the interrelatedness or the interconnectedness of all of those things. So when I
right.
was reading, I was like, I'm sure they all connect because
They
even as
do.
I'm listening to you speak, it's like you were doing one thing and then you evolved organically into the next thing and then the next thing. Is that how it kind of played out, or
Yeah.
is this like okay, go ahead.
Because I look at it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I always look at it as from a perspective of operating in the village. When you in the village, it's very natural for you to be gifted in many things because who says you have to specialize in just one thing?
Yes.
Like I remember one time I had someone who came in and they asked me, who certified you to do this? And I felt like that was an agent, but I'm like, who certify me to do what? I said, all I do is love people. Who needs to
Mm.
certify me to love people? So if anything, that's the title that I'm operating in is just love.
Mm.
And through that, through operating in love, there's no limitation in my service. There's no limitation in what I can offer. There's no limitation in what I can do. There's
Mm.
no
Mhm.
limitation in what I can move and help people to bring out of them because love is going to penetrate through everything. And
Mm.
love and operating from a place of love is going to allow you to see through people a place where they may need that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
yeah, there's no
Mm.
separation.
Yeah.
Separation. And all of these other things, these instruments, you're the first instrument. So every tool outside of that is just an extension of the tool that you're using from yourself.
Mm.
It's not adding to, you know what I mean? You
Mhm.
can just operate from yourself and do everything from you. But if you need an extension of yourself, that's what the tools are for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one quick minute because I see some new people coming. I'm gonna always pause for the cause.
That's my
And so I want to make sure that I acknowledge them. We have Doani Lenore Mahue. She says, "Hello, my beautiful sister. Peace to you, sis. Thanks for passing through and blessing the platform with your presence." We have Water Sniper. He's just simply saying hi. Okay, hey, Water Sniper. Thanks for coming through and showing some love. We have Yo Yo. She says, Kamilah. Peace to you, sis. Thanks for coming through. We have Adebisi Bere Eleru. Aha. Okay, I am going to try to read this. Abrowu aboye abosise iya.
Oburu, Oboye, Oboshishe, Iya. That's my tribe right there. Yo,
Okay.
yo. Bestie and She Rise. That's my sisters. That's my army right there.
Okay, I see them in here, sis. You're loved. Peace to you, sis. Thanks for coming through. And then we have Yo-Yo again. And then who else do we have here? She Rise. She says, "Peace, sister. Peace to you guys. Thanks for blessing the platform, guys, and coming through and showing your love and support. I very, very much appreciate you." Mike, something that you said that I wanted to stop there for one. Let's take a pause right there because it's something that I was processing through in my car actually this morning. And you talked about when people ask, well, who certified you? Or pretty much what they're saying, under whose authority? By whose authority are you doing this? It's like in the Bible when, that was asked, by whose authority are you performing these miracles type of thing? And I had a conversation with my own spirit this morning around initiation versus what you say, degrees, and how much value we place in PhDs, master's degrees, and so forth. But are people who take years to go through different types of initiation and study under master teachers, right? That how we don't even put any value in those things. But when we go to these institutions, it's like, oh, this person went to Harvard. Oh, this person is Dr. So-and-so. They have a PhD. And it's no shade on that. Do you? It's no shade at all. But it's very interesting what we place value in and what we devalue. And I think a lot of the, of course, come from the history of, So what do you say to that? Because it's interesting you brought it up because I was processing it this morning.
Well, we have allowed the world to define what is value to us, what is education to us, what is certified to us. We can't let the world determine what those things are for us when naturally we have these things when we're born. You know what I'm saying? So as far as like initiations, and I don't even care nothing about what the world got going on, because that's just a whole man-made created matrix anyway. And when it comes to like natural initiation, like, and even just initiation alone, I wanted to make sure I kept the fact, because this is something I say all the time. Who initiated Harriet Tubman?
That's a good point.
Who initiated her? Because the thing is that we are divinely led. We are divinely led. So even if you never went to a school to tell you how to do something, who you think the schools learned it from? Where do you even think that they got the idea to perform medicine from? All they did was take what they watched our people do and create a new system for people to become fully dependent on it that doesn't bring any health or value or wellness to them. So when we're talking about initiation is first something that is sparked from within. That means you got to be having a conversation with God, the Most High, however you term it, from within. And through that conversation and through that connection, through that consciousness alone, if you're moving and operating in obedience and you're being told what to do and you answer that call, that is an initiation. The thing is that initiation don't happen once. An initiation is happening every single day. Every decision that you make, we're always at the crossroads. So every choice that you make, you're going through constant initiations. Of thinking that you need somebody outside of yourself, you don't, because it's you are your own savior. And a lot of people don't believe in the ability of self-initiating, but that brings me back to who told Harriet Tubman that she has the authority. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So for me, I always go back to that. Who told Malcolm? The thing is that like with Malcolm, he was given certain information and certain wisdom that sparked the memory in him of who he was, and he answered the call. And from there, even though there was people who brought that awareness back to him, and their role was just to come and remind him of his destiny. After that, after he snatched his destiny back, the people who told him and reminded him couldn't even have no leverage over him. At that point, his decision had done been made with the creator. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, you can have the assistance, but and a lot of people go through initiations and they ain't really got no gifts because they haven't cultivated, they haven't done the works.
Whew.
So it don't matter what you look like, it don't matter what you have on, it don't matter about how much money you spent. That ain't real if what you're doing outside is not also happening inside. And the thing is that things are not happening inside of people. So everything now is just surface. It's just a show.
Mm.
So when
You
you
made
talk
a good point. You made a good point there. You said that a lot of people are going through initiation, but they ain't got no gifts. So it's becoming it has, and I'm gonna get into the healing piece in after this, because you said two things that kind of struck a chord in me. I'm already seeing a lot of alignment here, because a lot of what you're saying is things that I've been processing through coming up to this conversation. Very interesting, by the way. But you said they're going through initiation, they ain't got no gifts. So what's happening is they're looking at Mancho and Washa.
yes,
Yes. Okay. So I've had them on several times, and one of the things that he was saying, he talks about a story of a guy saying, "I want to get the degrees that you got. I want to study what you study, because what he's saying is, I want to show up in the essence and the energy that you're showing up in. So in order for
mm-hmm.
me to get that, what do I need to acquire?" Right, to create that. And Moncha said, he said to him, you can go get the master's degree, but I'm telling you, ain't worth shit. Like, because they do like different initiations, community studies outside of these institutions. And he
Right,
was like, that's where they found the most value. So when you said a lot of people are going through initiation, I think a lot of people are looking at people, it's probably like yourself, and they're admiring that energy, and they're like, I want what she has. So the immediate thing is like, well, let me see what book she's reading. Let me
right,
see who is her master teachers. Let me see who she studied under. And then they too want to take that same journey and believe that they're going to have the same outcome, which is not true. Right. And then
right.
the second thing that you mentioned was the remembrance piece. Oh, I'm toiling with this right now, right?
Chills,
And yes,
chills, chills.
because I'm realizing that a lot of what we think is just attraction, like certain things that we have a drawing to that's pulling us. We're like, oh, I'm just interested in that. No, these things, and I'm saying this out publicly for the first time. I'm accepting that. No, these things are just reminding you
Yes,
of who you are. They're trying to restore your memory. What you're attracted to is already who you are. That's
yes,
what that is.
I will. Mm-hmm.
So when you just said that, just triggered that. But I'm going to shift a little bit into the healing piece. So I'm going to start with the woman, because actually, let me just start with the men. What happened? Because you went semi viral, actually, and you got a lot of pushback, specifically from women, about this.
Mm-hmm.
It was a video. I know you know the one I'm talking about. The brother
Yes,
was
I
lying.
do.
Okay, and you was doing like this healing ritual on him, and I was really like, yes, we need more of this. But you got a lot of pushback from that. Why do you think that is? What is this thing about Black women healing the community, that's really hard for a lot of our women to accept now?
Well, it's unresolved trauma.
Mm,
It's unresolved trauma. You
mhm,
know, they may have experienced things in their childhood that they've never remedied, you
mhm,
know, or things in their relationships with the masculine, our brothers, that has not been remedied. They haven't healed through it. So now they've completely cut themselves off from themselves. And so now they deny them also. And that's really all that I saw, is that
mhm.
by them, you know, protesting in the way that they did, because I was shocked. I
Oh, okay.
because not only was it pushback, they created a whole YouTube video, used my video, and created another
Mm,
narrative that was the opposite of what was happening. So the
mm.
narrative that they created to support what they wanted, you know, to talk about,
Correct.
um, was that was my man, and I'm doing a love spell on him.
What? God.
Yeah. So
Okay.
So that was the narrative that they put out, but then also there were a lot of sisters who felt a way about, Black men and working on them, and how much pain they've caused us, and how they don't deserve that, and I should only be focusing on the sisters. And I'm like, them saying that just lets me know that I need to continue to work on my brothers and work with my brothers, and still also with my sisters. And I told them, I was like, well, you should just focus on getting healing for yourself, as opposed to shutting him down for showing up to get what he needed. It just
Mm.
showed me how both in both arenas was needed. And so I saw it as an attack, but in a way, but not really like a negative attack. At first I kind of felt the negative of it, the human, the reactive, but I didn't stay there. I wanted
Okay.
to really look at, what is this telling me? What is it that I need to learn from this experience? And what is the instruction in this, rather than the argument, or rather than, because you can take it however you want to, but for me, I'm like, I know that there's an instruction in this. So I'm like, I'm going to take that to the next level with me working with my brothers, so
Mm.
about working with the brothers, and I would kind of share a little bit here and there. I always share about working with the sisters.
Yes.
I was a little, slower with publicly putting out there working with the brothers, but I also know that I received instructions with my sisters in the beginning of the year at our first Soul Sister Circle, that this is the year where we are to erect the divine masculine, like we are to help him rise up. So that was an instruction,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't get those instructions, but I got those instructions, and I shared them with my collective. And so, that's what we've been doing. But yeah,
What? So okay. So let me pause for the cause because I see
okay.
some people coming in. All right. So we have Inya is here, of course, as usual. She says, "Welcome to everyone. Enjoy the conversation." That's one of my mods. Peace to Inya. She's such a beautiful sister. Thanks for being here, Inya, and supporting. Yo Yo is here. I saw. Yo Yo says, "Authority is my word." Laugh out loud. Brother Omawale says, "Love your guest, Sister Hanifa. Would love to bring her on for an interview." Her name is on the screen. I'm sure you can find her. She's out there.
But there's fake pages too, so you want to be
That's
very
true.
mindful of that. That it's so many pages of me. So
But I
it's
think Inya put your information in the chat
okay,
as well.
perfect.
Yeah, she put your link tree in
Yes,
there as well. So Omawale, if you're still listening, Inya posted her Inya, if you could post that again, I would be most grateful. So make sure that you can find her on her link tree, Omawale. Omawale is a good brother. And thanks for coming through, Omawale. Narcisse is just sending praying hands. Janelle R is saying, "Hey, at Kamilah KaMaat." Oh, okay. And peace to Sister Hanifa, the sister on the panel, and everybody in the chat. Hope everyone is good. Yeah, Omawale, you can I think Inya might post her thing again. If not, I'll post it again. And if not, you can always reach out to me, Omawale. I'll link you with her. Um but yes, thanks for being here. What is so being away on this subject with our brothers,
yeah.
are you from your work, are you seeing that the brothers, if there's a need for the sisters to be a part of our brothers healing? Do you see a need for that, for the feminine to be a part of that, or are you thinking that we need more men to help our men heal? What do you think?
We need both.
Okay. Hmm.
We need both. Where we are as a collective, we've been at war with each other, for such a long time. And I mean, that was by design. That wasn't just because we just wanted to be at war with one another. But because we chose that route, we also have to choose the route to provide assistance for each other to help each other heal. I feel that, there's a certain capacity of healing that the feminine can certainly provide to the masculine, and also the masculine to the feminine. So even in recent, I've been working a lot with my sisters, but now I'm opening a space for them to have, like I said, I'm one leg, but I know the masculine is the other leg. So we can't have balance without each other.
Yes.
So certainly the brothers need brotherhood. They certainly definitely need that, but most importantly, we all need each other. There's just, like as said, we're the ones who crown them. We're the ones who bring them here. So there's a lot that they're going to need from us, and we definitely need that support from them as well. Because I know for me, a lot of my trauma came from the masculine. So I know that my relationships and having healthy relationships with the masculine is also very healing for me. So we need each other.
Mm.
We need each
Yeah,
other.
that's a good point because I'm really big on that. There's been a lot of conversation around the so-called gender war, right, between black men and black women. And one of the things that I often say is that we're asking women to come into fellowship and with men who they find triggering because most of their traumas were at the hand of naturally so proximity of black men. And now we're asking them to build with that which they that which hurt them in general. So it's not as simple as just bringing everyone to the table. There's a lot of self work that has to be done first. And I think what's happened is the reason why it ends up being a food fight when you bring everyone to the table is because of those individual traumas that these people are coming to the table with. Because I find that the women and the men, by the way, who are about the conversation around balance are the people who've already been doing the work on themselves. And so they are taking it from a different perspective. From their angle, everybody hurt. It ain't just one side.
Right.
Everybody out here hurting.
Yeah.
But we need people, we need more people like yourself, like myself, like different women, men who understand the importance and the value of maintaining that balance and understand that they can enter into the conversation without the need to choose a side. Because I
Right.
think there's a lot of that going on. Have you ever tried to facilitate conversations or sessions between, before I get to that, let me go back. The healing session that you was doing with the brother, what was the purpose of that?
The one that had the backlash, pushback.
Yes.
The purpose of, well, that was actually orchestrated by his therapist.
Oh, okay.
So she, referred him to me because I've worked with her also. So a lot of times she'll send, her clients to me for just an alternative, solution for healing, to just face certain things, have certain conversations, and just to invite newness, a new frequency, a new vibration, because that alone can help move and shift the energy as well. So this was something that was recommended by his therapist.
Okay. And when you do a session like that, like if you do a session like that in the brothers, and I'm coming to the sisters in a second, what has been the results of such sessions? What have you seen? What are some highlights that you are or you able to share with us that have come out of like those ceremonies?
Well, as you noted, a lot of it, a lot of transformation happens with self-work. You have to have consistency with doing your own work. And as I always share, is that I'm just assisting you in the work that you have to do for yourself. So you can't just expect for me to just come in or you to come in and just work with me and then everything is just, all brand new. No, a lot of times we've had some really deep breakthroughs. um a lot of times, brothers that have not had the capacity to be able to cry, they finally get the release that they need. Brothers who have been blocked off from visualizations, a lot of times we can help open them up in such a capacity, because a lot of times people are operating in shells from egos, from pains, from all of these things. So it's like they have a wall that you can't get through. But when you operating from a certain energy, like, and you can bring a space of comfort for them, they can let those walls come down. So, them being able to kind of channel in, and I can guide them into seeing certain things. So a lot of times when I guide them in sessions, I'll see it and then they can see it. And then I just speak it out loud. So in the process of that, they're actually going through a whole visualization of release and cleansing. And so in doing that in the spirit and in the form of energy and the ethers and everything, like, it's also happening within the body. So the thing is that the body is just holding memories, and so what we're going in and doing is just shifting the narrative inside so that they're not held captive or slave to certain narratives anymore. So a lot of times it's associated to like new beginnings. I know a lot of brothers come, they'll get like the foot wash, the foot baths, and what it does is completely it closes that old path that they were on. So they don't think the
Mm.
same way anymore. They might not even talk to, like, some men may have been, really disrespectful towards women, didn't know how to talk to them, but now they're in a space where they can open their heart to them, they can work with them, they can communicate with them. So it's been a lot of different things that have happened for the brothers in a way that they've been wanting to open themselves up and especially be of service to the feminine, or even being able to connect with their mother, or you know what I mean, just the feminine
Mm-hmm.
in general. So a lot of that for them has been, I feel like, some of the deepest and greatest movements of healing for them.
Okay. You just it's just so many things that is just in alignment with what you're saying here. When you just you something as simple as I had an interview with a brother on here, and he is someone who works in like the inner city, and he works with a lot of young people who, they're hopeless, they're in gangs, and he was talking about, and he himself he was incarcerated at the age of 17, charged as an adult, and wasn't released until he was about 35, right? And so one of the things that I remember him telling us, a sister and I, is that even in the date, like trying to date, how he showed it's almost like he's still stuck at 17 when he's trying to like go through this, like, trying to like relate to women and like talk to them. But he was talking to me the other day about how many men, how many boys have never been told I love you. And so when you're discussing that, I'm just like, I'm thinking about is like creating new pathways. You know what I'm saying? Unlocking some things just within them. Because I think that even science, I think we don't really fully understand the function of the body. When people say that they're God, I think about that as you have the ability to speak to your cells, to change, right, and to just do some healing on a molecular level on your own with the proper tools, and like you said, with some assistance. But when you talked about just foot washing, something as simple as foot washing, and what that can do.
It's the
Ah,
intention. It's the intention because
yes.
one of the biggest things with me is reminding people of the power of their tongue
Mm. Okay.
and speaking for themselves. Like, we don't even realize just opening up our mouths and speaking intentionally for ourselves before we can touch anything, before we can even put the water in the bowl to put our feet in it. Just having the heart and the mind and the spirit in alignment to speak forth the intention for yourself can move things just as fast as anything else. And so before I even perform anything for them, they have to be clear with their own intentions. Because I already
Mm-hmm.
know my intentions for you, but I
Mm-hmm.
meet you at the bridge with your intentions, and then we can cross the bridge together. But before I even work on their feet, they have to speak life into themselves. They have to speak life into what is being performed, because you can do more for yourself than what I can do for you.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times we don't have the belief that we have that power and that we hold that power. So that's the first thing that I'm always reminded. So even if I never see them again, the one thing that I want them to be reminded of is the power of their voice to move and speak anything into existence. As you can speak it
Mm.
into existence, you can also speak it out of existence. But the thing is that we're not utilizing our voice as our power. So that's the first thing that we
Mm,
do.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I'm gonna close out this section with the men by asking you, because there may be someone listening. What are some of what comes to your mind when I ask what are some of the main things that you have noticed that black men struggle with, and really need healing around? You can, whatever comes to your mind, what are some of the things that stand out for you the most?
The first thing that stands out to me is intimacy. And what
Mm.
I mean by intimacy, this doesn't have anything to do with how they connect with other people, it's how they connect with themselves. And as for a lot of people, they're just very avoidant of themselves. And so what's tending to happen is just being consumed with a lot of distractions, not taking the time to give yourself true attention. That's the biggest problem, because
Mm.
once you give yourself more attention, you're going to hear. you're going to feel, you're going to see things, you're going to reveal things to yourself. But what I would say the biggest thing is the lack of intimacy with self, the lack of into seeing
Mm.
yourself. So, and that's not just for them, but when you said that, that was the first thing that popped up. But that goes for both of us, for the man
Yes.
and the woman.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
lack of intimacy with self in a way where we're actually looking to hear from us. You know what I'm saying? To really assess, where am I
Hmm.
right now? What have I been doing? What is it that I need to bring awareness to? What is it that I need to change? What and the fact that I'm asking these questions because I'm ready to make certain changes. So if I'm
Hmm.
spending a lot of time ignoring myself and distracting myself from myself, then I'll never have those conversations. And if I never have those conversations with myself, then how can I ever have a true relationship with somebody else? And so the thing is that this is what everybody's doing.
Yeah, you just said that, and I just wrote down grind culture. Grind culture.
Whoa.
This this grind culture is a big one. Chase the bag, get the bag by any means necessary. And like you said, it's not just the men, but I think with men and the way that our men are socialized in this society, productivity is a big one. Their value is very much attached to what they can produce. And so it's always looking outside of themselves. Their value is coming from things
Yeah.
outside of them, what type of jobs they have, what type of father they show up as, what type of husband they show up as, can they provide, can they protect. All of these things are things that that are coming from outside of them, right? So when you talk about intimacy, you're referring to really finding that value within, right? Which then
Yes.
begins to shape your outside world. So that's it.
Yes.
Yes, that's a really good point. And
Yeah.
as soon as you said, I was like, grind culture does that to us. Yes, ma'am.
By
Both of us.
by design,
Mm-hmm.
because all they do is continue to create narratives, for us to continue to be puppets to govern our lives by. Like we're
Mm.
steadily, like you said, looking outside. We're reaching for everything that's pushed out to us instead of like cutting all of that off so you can check in with yourself. So
Mm.
we're running. We're running and we're running and we're running and we ain't going nowhere out there, and we're still trying to fulfill ourselves with the things that are out there, and that'll never be the case. And so that's why I feel like the intimate aspect is the most important thing, because as you said, as within so without, you get that center together within, then your life is going to reflect that.
Hmm. And also to the when you said even spending time with self, the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was all you got to do is fast for a couple of days, fast from everything for a couple of days. Or
Everything.
you hear yourself just fine. Fast from
Yes.
social media, fast from even taking just a dry fast or just a water fast. You will hear yourself. But what I've learned is, and this is not just through fasting, but even people's anxiety around plant medicine. Like people are afraid of themselves.
Yes, they are.
People are afraid of their own consciousness. It's very interesting. I just had this conversation with my husband. Like, people are afraid of their own consciousness, their own self. And so there's a lot of things that they're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's just fear of themselves. Why do you think we're so afraid of ourselves? Like, for me,
Yeah, so
I'll be
just
honest,
think
for the
about
life of
this.
me. Go ahead.
So fear was the first strategy for slavery.
Mm. Expound on that.
Okay, so had you never been afraid, then you could have never stayed a slave, right?
Mm. Got you.
But if we've kept that mentality for generations, it only makes sense why we're still afraid. And when the way I look at it, I'm like, not only that, we're still on a plantation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
we're still operating with the mentality as a slave. They don't want to get off the plantation. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to look at it. It's still the same mentality. It's still the same thing.
Mm.
So the fear,
Mm.
and this is just from my own feels of what I've resonated for myself. I feel that there was a time when fear did not exist within us. They had to
Okay.
beat fear into us. They had to do all the measures and agendas and tactics that they could to enforce fear into our system. Fear is
Mm-hmm.
a part of our system now, but I don't feel that fear was always there.
Okay. Okay.
And so fear is the curse.
Okay.
Once you break that curse, they can't have you.
But to be afraid of ourselves, what is it that we think that we're gonna find that's gonna be so
The
terrorizing?
truth, the truth.
Oh, child.
Because when you find the truth about yourself, now you are required to do something about it.
Absolutely, Ashe. Yep.
You can't just know it and then you can't do nothing about it because you ain't gonna stop hearing it. The
Hmm.
truth gonna remind you every single day that is there.
And you can't unsee it.
You can't.
That's
So
very
if I
true.
if I can avoid it, then I don't have to do anything about it. If I
Oh,
don't see
wow.
it, then I don't even know that there's something else for me to do. I can just do this. That's why I say slave mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna
Mm.
stay on this plantation in this field. I ain't looking out here for no opportunity. I'm just gonna do what they tell. I'm not doing all of that because
Mm-hmm.
now I would really have to step up in my power because at that point, when I'm no longer the slave, now I have to make the requirements and do my due diligence of becoming a master. So it's like either I'm gonna be a slave or I'm gonna be a master. It's only one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are comfortable with being a slave, but they also know that that's their suffering.
That's a good point because even when I was talking to a sister of mine, and I'm going to take a pause for the cause after this. But I was talking to a sister of mine, and I'm just like, it's trendy now to say your God is your God. And I'm just like, do we understand
Woo!
the responsibility
Woo!
that comes with that? And for those who, I don't know, maybe your background is one of the Abrahamic religions, you understand God is a creator, God maintains, right? God alchemizes, God speaks things out of nothing. Like there's a responsibility, which is the mastery that you're talking about. You don't get to just call yourself a God and a goddess, right? And not have control over your own life and surrender the responsibility of your life, how you eat, how you think, how you show up, how you act, healing yourself, all of these things. You can't be a God and at the same time place that responsibility in somebody else's lap. So it's not a trendy thing to say. It comes with great responsibility. And so we need to be very careful what we out here calling ourselves and have some understanding of what that really entails. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to add that in there. I'm gonna take a quick pause for the cause. Liberated Soul says, great point, Sister Kamilah. I'm glad you take the approach of letting your clients know that you are there to assist, but the real work depends on what they do for themselves. Absolutely. I have my good sis just passing through. My aunt speaks. Peace, sis, and chat. Peace to you, my aunt. Thanks for coming through and showing some love. We have Truth Be Told, just giving us some good peace energy. And who else? Liberated Soul said, peace to you and the family, sister, my aunt. Okay, they're talking to each other. Let me see who else. I saw someone else come in. I always want to make sure I acknowledge people as they come in. Wisdom Boss says, hey to you, good brother. Thanks for coming through and showing us some love. Let me see. Okay, so now I'm gonna shift a little bit now to the woman. So how important is the work on self for you? This is personal to you. How important was that self work to your work that you do with women? Is it possible for you to show up in the power that you do had you not done the self work? Like what was the preparation for what you're doing now? What did that look like? Take us on that journey.
Well, so I'll give a backstory to how
Sure.
it's just divine,
Mhm,
right? Divine, divine, divine. So my background is Christianity.
mhm,
I was raised in a holiness church,
mhm.
right? So it go down in a holiness church.
Yes, it does.
So I had a beautiful teacher, pastor, who was a very loving man. And I always share this story with my sisters. So when I was a young girl, I remember him teaching a sermon about making a covenant with God
Okay.
and how when you made a covenant with God, you cannot go back on that covenant, right? So I probably was in elementary school when I remembered that. Now we go
Mhm.
hashtag remembrance
Okay.
because that was the one that I remembered. So when I was 13, I was being molested by my father.
Okay.
And at this point, it had been going on for about 7 years. But when I reached 13, I was tired. So I hadn't got to a point of, either I have to go or he has to go. So this is where I was contemplating suicide or I was contemplating taking him out.
Okay.
But my heart, I didn't have the heart to do neither one of them. So what I did is pray. I prayed and I remembered that sermon. And in that moment, I made a covenant with God. And I said, God, I give my life to you. You take me out of this situation. 3 days later, I was taken out of that house.
Okay.
Right? Now, note, I made a covenant because once you make a covenant, it's there. That agreement is stamped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went on to a children's home, and it's a long story, but one day y'all will be able to read about it. I ended up going to my adopted mother's home. I never had any therapy. I never had any counseling after all that I had just went through. So it was just like, life just goes on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So from that very moment, like at 14, I already had the mentality of wanting to heal my relationship with my father. I
Oh,
felt
wow.
that it was very necessary, and that's just how I naturally thought. I wanted to have a relationship with my father. I never hated him. I always operated from a perspective of, you know, I still love him regardless to what he did. I can't make myself hate him for what he did. That wasn't something that I felt naturally. So this
Okay.
was just naturally how I operated, again, with love. So fast forward years later, I start getting the call. The call was me hearing that I was going down a path of destruction. Now, during this time, I wasn't practicing anything spiritually. I still had gifts, I still could see, but it wasn't my focus. It
Okay.
wasn't what I was giving my attention to.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got a call that I was going down the path of destruction and that everything that I love, I would lose if I did not choose my path.
Mm-hmm.
So this was 10 years exact to when I made that covenant.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that 10, everything comes full rotation, full cycle, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
had 10 years to do all of what I wanted to do. And now it was time to answer the call. So I started to see how things were starting to take place in my life and the warning began to manifest.
Mm.
And it ain't take long for me to say, okay, I'm going to do right.
Around
So
what age is this?
I was 23.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was 23. So 23, 24. So all I knew was church. So me getting my life right with God, I went back to church.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And me going back to church wasn't me just going to just sit around and just be there like we see a lot of people doing. I went there and I was being a student at home. So I was reading my Bible, I was praying for myself, and I was going to service.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time I was going to service every time, as they say, every time the doors are open. I'm in Bible study, I'm in Sunday service, Sunday school, Friday night service. And every time I would go up on Sunday service, I would go up for prayer and go up for the altar call because I'm waiting for spirit to hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I went up, nothing was happening. So there was a day I was going up and something said to me, and it was the same voice that told me, you're going down the path of destruction. Same voice. So while I'm sitting there and I'm about to go up for prayer, I hear the voice tell me, don't let nobody touch you. You can pray for yourself.
Mm.
And so I sat there. And my mom knows me to go up every week. And she looked at me and she asked me, you okay? I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm all right. So at this point, I'm being obedient and I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
Then, now that I'm being obedient and I'm listening, Spirit is continuing to speak to me. And Spirit says, look around you. This is a program. You do the same thing every week. It's the same lineup every week. And I was like,
Jeez.
yeah. So I'm listening.
Whew.
This Spirit tells me, you got to go it alone. I don't know what that means. You got to go it alone. So I'm inquiring, like, what does that mean? And now the conversation is happening within me. And Spirit said, do everything that you've been doing, but do it alone. And I heeded that instruction. I did not stop praying. I did not stop reading. I did not stop studying. I did not stop seeking. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized when I removed myself, it was because so I wouldn't be corrupted. and so that I wouldn't be limited because nobody there could teach me
Mm.
what I would learn by myself. So as I began to learn by myself, and I didn't have anybody to interpret for me or tell me what this was or misinterpret for me, when I read and I intuited specifically straight to myself, and things made a lot of sense. And so, like I told you at the beginning, I would use social media as a ministry to just share my interpretations. And then from there, that's when people started coming to me. So I never stopped doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
I never stopped listening.
Mm-hmm.
I never stopped being led. So me doing the work don't look no different than what it did from that time up until now. The only thing that's grown a lot is me overstanding boundaries, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
always have that.
Okay. Okay. And that's
So
understandable
yeah.
considering your history. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't always have that.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the work is very important. And my sisters know this. Like, I don't, like, for a lot of people, they say, you make it look easy. You make it. I'm like, yeah, I do. But that's because I'm not complaining about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go back and forth with what I know. I just do what I know that I have to do, because that's what's always worked for me. Since I've been 13 and I've known that that's what worked for me, that hasn't changed yet. So
Mm-hmm.
you might have conflictions about that, but I don't. You may
Mm-hmm.
have an argument with that, but I don't, because I know what works for me.
Correct.
So I take the time when I need to pull away. But the thing is that for me, there's no separatism with this for me. This is my lifestyle. This is who I am every single day. This is not a day job, or
Mm.
like, this is my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not separate. There is no personal from work or none of that. Like, this is all integrated.
Got you.
So
Mm-hmm.
when I do this, when I'm working with my sisters, when I'm offering service, when I get something too. A lot of times messages come through I ain't never heard. I get instructions while I'm getting the instructions to give to them. When I'm offering energetic healing services, I'm getting energy too. So me being of service is also providing me with what it is that I'm being a vessel to come through me. And that's really all that it is. So the work is always being done,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, and living and operating intentionally. Like, when you make that your lifestyle, you always doing the work. It shows up in
Yeah.
every decision that you make, every place that you go, everything that you eat, everything that you do. That's your way of life. It's not separate. So that's just the best way that I could like answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah. You said oh sheesh. So many like trigger words, not trigger. I use trigger lightly here. But like remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm literally in the midst of that. Like
Uh,
literally in the midst
yeah.
of like really, really understanding that. You also said something just now, and I I put in all caps. This is a program.
I
You see,
will.
this is a program, and it's funny because again, this morning, Spirit and I was going back and forth about this, and this ability to not just program ourselves, but reprogram and deprogram
Yes.
ourselves, because there is a programming, and this goes back to the whole Godship thing, where
Yes.
you are living by someone else's program. Gods and
Yes.
goddesses do
Woo.
not do that. And so you have to take responsibility to program, reprogram, deprogram yourselves, because you have the power to do so. Your cells are literally sitting and waiting for marching orders. The
Yeah.
science is out there. They've done the research. Okay. They're
Yeah.
literally waiting. That's what they say, 21 days to build a habit. Right. And I know people just say that like, oh, but really understanding what that means on like a biological level. It means that, God's, the scripture says, and God said, and there was.
Yes. Woo. Just like that.
Just like that. God said, and there was. Like,
Right. That don't mean you gonna see it right then, but because
correct.
you said it, it is. It is. It's already done.
Yes, yes. And you also said there's another thing that you also said, which the self piece. So I've kind of been contending with this as well. I'm telling you, you're hitting on so many things, and this is fresh in my mind because I've been just had this conversation with myself this morning. But there are for me, I contend within myself, I'm not a fangirl. I'm not, right? And I know a lot of people, I've never been. I have people who I might like their music, I might like their work, I might like their art, but I'm not a fangirl, right? Never have been. I'm not, and I don't know if it's the Aries in us in this. I don't know.
It'd be like, who's your favorite? I'm like, I'm my favorite.
And don't get me wrong, there are people that I respect, that I admire. I love it, but I've never been a fangirl to where it's like, oh, I gotta go fly over here because they're over here now, and I gotta do this, or I can find no fault in this person, getting caught up in personality and charisma, because there's a lot of personality cults out there right now, right? And so getting really swept up in that, and sometimes for me, because I was contending with was, okay, I'm studying, and spirit have already told me, like, there's some things that you need to know that you're not going to find in any book, and that Google can never tell you. You're going to you can't get around this. You're going to have to sit with me. You're going to have to come inside, mama. You're going to have to come inside.
Oh, so what I heard just then was release Google and put on your goggles. Put on your goggles. Go inside. Go deep. But yeah, yes. Google not going to give it to you.
Yes, go inside. Look, go inside and play. Okay, go inside and play. So I'm gonna shift now to the woman, because I know you just talked about your own story, which kind of gives us a little bit more insight to the type of work that you do with women. Okay, so let me take a pause for the cause, because there are some people that just came in. Wireless Woman says, hey yo peeps, hey wireless woman, thanks for passing through. I also just saw Emily Castillo. Peace, sisters. Peace to you as well, Emily. And then we also have Jalea Munea. Peace, beautiful sisters. MAM checking in. What is MAM?
Yes, ma'am. That's Mother's Army Ministry. That's my sisters. That's my
Okay. And guys, I'm gonna, if you have any questions for Kamilah, make sure you shoot them, because we're getting around to that part of the show at this point. But if you are new here, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share the live if you like what you're hearing. I know I'm thoroughly enjoying the interview thus far. I got so many things that I want to ask. But with women. Okay. So I think I saw recently that you went through Queen Afua's, I don't know what they call, what is it? Woman Heal Thyself? Is it? I don't know if you call it an initiation ceremony.
Like I've observed Queen Afua, Sacred Woman, for a couple of years.
Thank you.
But I ain't do no initiations or nothing like that. I did a study group with my sisters. I also did do a study group with one of the sisters that has went through the initiations. But that's about as far as I've ever with it, just observing the disciplines and things of that nature.
So she talks a lot about, like, the stresses that women, which creates a lot of fibroids in us and so forth. So I want to ask the same question as far as our sisters are concerned. What are some of the big ones that come to your mind, or that you see kind of like a pattern amongst Black women in working with them? What are some of those issues that a lot of our sisters really need serious healing on? What comes to your mind?
Well, it's always the womb.
Okay.
But also the heart. Like, we put a lot of emphasis on the womb, but we don't realize that it's also in no disconnection with the heart. So it's like you can be fasting, you can be eating all the fruits, juicing, and you can do all of that. But if your heart is not in check, you have to get that together. You know what I mean?
When you say heart, are you talking about like a lot? Are you talking about broken hearts?
Broken heart, unresolved trauma, a lot of self-worth, like lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, like those things, you know what I'm saying? In which the absence of healing in those areas is what's going to manifest those physical wound problems, because you're not operating in your fullness. You're not operating in your truth. You're not operating in your magic. You're not operating in your creativity, not in the fullness. So when you're not operating in your fullest capacity, then it creates blockage. There's
Yes.
blockage that is there. So all things that manifest like as a physical illness is what we study in our group. There's always a emotional or mental problem or spiritual problem or something that may have happened that's unresolved from childhood, even
Okay.
generational things that may have not been healed. All of those things are associated to those problems that we have within our hearts that also are connected to our wombs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So I really want to get into the healing aspects, like some of the work that you do, because some people that are listening may not know like the purpose of these things. And so the first one I'm going to start with, because and you can connect it back to the work that you do with the men, with the woman, and how that brings about that healing. Can we start with Reiki? What exactly is Reiki? What is the purpose of Reiki? What is that about?
Okay, so first and foremost, like Reiki is a new term,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
As we have a lot of new terms for a lot of new age modalities and things of that nature. But Reiki, in simple terms, is just laying hands.
Mm, okay.
It's just laying hands. It's something that we've seen in every tradition. It's something as simple as a hug is Reiki,
Mm,
right? You know how
okay.
like you can be feeling away and somebody hugs you and then you just start crying. Like, so a lot of times we think about these things and we make it too deep, and although it is deep, it's still simple. It starts with the simplicity of things for it to even be all of that. Like
Mm,
Reiki can even be just eye contact, and it's the movement of energy that is happening between one instrument to another.
yeah, yeah.
And one may be just receiving and one may be giving, or they may be passing back and forth in reciprocity to each other. But the thing is that this is something that we do all day long. But this is also why it is so important for us to be mindful of how we are giving and exchanging energy and where we are getting it from.
Mm,
As for instance, with phones and televisions and music, it is giving energy to us, but what energy is it giving to us? So, like when
mhm,
we talk about this, like it's not just that, but like I said, something as simple as laying the hands is giving somebody a hug. It's just
mm,
of energy, intentional energy, because energy can penetrate anything.
intentional. Mm-hmm.
And so when we intentionally can know and detect what may be a person's issue, like a lot of times we may intuitively pick up that there's something in this area
Uh-huh.
or there's something in this area that's not moving, that's not functioning.
Mm-hmm.
You can detect because you can feel. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us are very gifted. We can touch certain parts, so we can have certain visions that will show us what may be happening within a person, or we may be being told what to do for them.
Mm.
You see
So
what I'm
is speaking life into someone a form of Reiki?
Yes, it is. We call it
Okay.
Oriki. We call it Oriki, which is something that is adopted from the Yoruba culture.
Got you.
And so
Mm.
basically that's speaking life into a person. So this is something that my sisters and I we do all the time because it's very important, because this is a way that you uplift the spirit. Because like you can tell someone, you're so beautiful, you can give them the compliments. And before you gave them compliments, they probably weren't even feeling any of that. And when you
Mm.
start pouring into them, you lift their spirit up. Now they
Mm.
don't feel anything that they might have been in depression.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? So it's
Yes.
like this ain't no different from what any of us have the capacity to do. That's
Mm.
why when I said when I went for certification, it wasn't because I felt like I didn't have it. I knew I had it. I just
Mm.
wanted to go see something, you know? I just wanted to go see what I was, how do you do this? Because I mean, I know I be doing stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't the type to stop and, well, what does this mean? And what is the name of this? This is just something that I naturally do. So the thing is that we want to put a name and a label and categorize everything. But I'm like, it's all love. It's all love.
As you're speaking, the word demystify is going through my mind, because I'm finding that there's a lot of ancient indigenous practices that people have taken from
Our
the indigenous people, right? Kind of wrapped it into this like exclusive wrapping, to where it's like only certain people have access to this. And so
our
they've actually mystified these practices. So I like that you have just, in just a small little short time, demystify them, because I've never heard someone say speaking life into someone is a form of Reiki. You mentioned intentional exchange of energy. Intentional, right? And one of the things that comes to mind, when I was young growing up in the islands, my mother, even to this day, when I had my son, he had a little fever. And my mother said, put his naked body on your naked body, okay, to bring his fever down.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you were speaking, I'm like, even our elders have taught us Reiki practices. But like you said, the terminology and the mystification of those terminologies by people that are outside of the cultures, the indigenous cultures, have caused us to remove ourselves or separate ourselves in a sense.
Our
You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, you just break it down like, no, some of us are practicing what they call Reiki without even knowing that that's what it is. It's
yes,
just natural to us.
it's
Someone is crying, they need a hug. Someone is feeling down, they need life spoken into them. My
yes,
son has a fever. Culturally, we are known to, you put the naked baby on your body to bring that fever down. Like, these are things that are natural to
natural,
us. Right.
natural.
So I
Right.
love, go ahead, sis.
That's why I'm saying, like, and that's why I don't really care to use terms. The
Okay.
terms are used because people of today use terms. People
Got
of
you.
today need to see certifications. People of today, but it's like, if this is something that we've been doing lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes, all the way back to the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't call anything anything.
Yeah. This is
So
just what you did. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I'm the type of person, I'm like, I don't need any of those titles, terms, words. I don't need something to describe what I
Mm-hmm.
do. I
Mm-hmm.
just do what I do because
Mm-hmm.
we have many of us, once we do the work enough, we trust enough, we move out of the way enough, again, to become a worthy enough vessel to
Mm-hmm.
receive the capabilities of doing even more.
Mm. You make some valid points too, because I always tell people, one of my favorite books that I've recently read, and I delayed reading this book. God knows I delayed reading this book, and I finally read it. Of water and of spirit, of the
Mhm,
water and of the spirit, right?
mhm.
And he talks about culturally where they're going through like certain initiations and so forth. But anyway, where trees have communicated to their ancestors to tell them what they are good for. Even there are certain seasons where the tree would say, you cannot consume me during this season, because during this season I'm actually poisonous.
I
So
will.
come, look, circle back around in the summer. Circle back around in the summer. Right now you can't use me. So imagine asking someone who get that knowledge from the tree itself, asking them, well, whose authority and whose certification? What do they say to you? The tree? Because they're looking like, I've been told this. Because the reality is, our ancestors, the way that we are separate from nature, that's not our way.
It's
I think
not.
it's not our way, right? So a lot of that is coming from, it's like a tree. And so when I read that in the book, it felt natural to me, because I'm like, yeah, because you have to think back. What's the brother's name? Judge Washington Carver,
Yes.
the mycologist. Okay, what do you think was happening with him? They say he's the guy that talked to plants, right? It's the same thing. How do you tell someone like that, where's your degree? Where's your certification? And they're like, listen here, this little tree right here told me that you need this for your stomach ache. You either gonna take it or you not. Go ahead, sis, if you wanted to say something.
I mean, the wise is always going to listen and the fool is always going to not listen. They don't want to listen. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that what you even speaking about, just even the connection of the universal language.
Mm-hmm.
There's a universal language that happens between us and everything that exists. And a lot of times, like, that's why, like, back in those times, yes, and I mean the plants communicate, everything communicates now. It's just
Yep.
everybody, they so distracted and blocked up, they can't hear it. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? You listening
Mm-hmm.
to everything else that is normal but not natural. So that's the thing. We have to carve out more time
Exactly.
to engage and connect with more, what more is natural for us rather than
Mm-hmm.
what is normal, because that normalcy is what's disconnecting us from our very own nature. And our nature is to communicate with nature, because nature is always communicating with us.
Mm.
So I'm like, that's how we knew what will heal this or what will do this and what will do that, because it will tell us. That's
Mm.
how things got their names, because everything is an intelligence, just
Yes.
as we are. You know what I'm saying? We just have a
Yes.
different experience in this realm, but we all share the same language.
Mm.
We
Mm.
all share the same language.
And
But
that
who
language sometimes has nothing to do with words. It's not
it
language as we know it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the
Mm-hmm.
first language didn't require words. The first
Exactly.
language, like us, for us to speak, this is so slow to me. You know what I'm saying? Like talking out of our mouth, this is the slowest form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be able to communicate from mind to mind, consciousness to consciousness, because we're doing that anyway. And this is something that I love about my tribe, because this is what we do. Like
Okay.
we've become such an integrated collective to where we share the language without words. And when we do share the language with words, sometimes it won't be words that's in English.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, people can choose to experience being here however they want, but I'm like, we've decided the lane that we're in, and we know what time it is. We know
Mm-hmm.
what it is. That's why when my sisters get on here and they like, ma'am, they like Mother's Army, because we know that it's the mother that's orchestrating this entire thing, the language, the plants, the animals, the war, the peace,
Mm-hmm.
everything. So
Mm-hmm.
we know what's up. But we
Mm.
are always listening. And what we do is we heed the messages and we share them with each other.
Mm.
That's why we be on each other's heads. Accountability and self-work is so important, because we can't always listen for you. You have to be able to hear for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Mm-hmm.
is why the message came up, the reminder came up this year: awareness is protection. If you're not aware, if you're not slowing down enough to be able to see what's happening, because we're going to always be told what's happening, there's always warning before destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have to be able to hear. And so when we talk about universal language, it don't ever stop speaking, it don't
Mm-hmm.
ever stop talking to us. Even when we close our eyes, we're still downloading and receiving and uploading and getting imagery and messages and signs and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
universal language. So yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely that.
as long as much as language, common language brings us together, language also creates a barrier that a lot of times we're not aware of. And when I say that, I mean, some people will say, I can't really, tap into this person because we speak a different language. But the reality is that there's still an interconnectedness between you and nature, right? So one morning I was out in my backyard and there was a big commotion up it. We have a big tree in the back, and then the neighbor's tall tree, there was a huge commotion. So it's me and my 3-year-old back there, and I'm looking and I'm like, what is going on? It's this bird like screaming, going crazy. Okay.
Mm,
And I stopped and I finally, saw where it was coming from. It was this big bird that came and snatched her baby up. Okay, and
wow.
put that baby in his or her mouth. I don't know what it was a bird. It was a bigger bird, and these were these little smaller birds. And all I saw was that big bird flying away with her baby, and the whole community of little birds flying behind him, right, trying to trying to catch up. And I understood that. I'm
Right.
not a bird. I don't need to be a bird to understand that. I understood that. I understand. No, there was no bird that came down and said to me, so what happened was, no, I understood
Right.
what was going on. That's a mother
Right.
chasing after her child, right? That's, and I'm like, I don't need language to understand that.
Right.
I don't need language for things to resonate, to relate. I don't need language because energy is a language.
Right. Just
When
like
you
you never had a conversation, right? But you saw and you like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling her energy, because the energy is always going to speak for itself. It don't need an introduction, because the
yes.
energy is always going to introduce itself. And if you are really tapped in and you're not looking with a certain type of eye, and you're just looking very clearly to, detect what is truly there, you're going to always see.
And it's funny, you said feel. You said I was feeling the energy. We talk a lot about remembrance. It's not a feeling, it's a knowing.
Yes.
When I see you, I'm like, I know that energy. I
Ashe.
I know that energy. It's not even a feeling. It's like I know that energy. And that's without conversation. We've never
Right.
spoken to each other. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with that. I want to get into the aspect of, I have some questions around sound healing. That's something that you said that you also do. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is the one with the bowls. Is that correct?
This can be any instrument. I mean,
Okay.
the first instrument, like first sound healing, clapping your hands. Something as
Girl.
simple as clapping your hands. That's why we do it in church. Like nobody had to say, "Now clap your hands." Like you just get in the energy and you just start clapping your hands. That's why when you do get in that vibration, it just feels so good. You ain't thinking about nothing. You ain't
Mhm.
worried about nothing. You ain't stressed about nothing. So in that moment, you healing yourself when you clapping. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? You're
Yes.
moving energy. So something as simple as that is sound healing. Using your
Mm.
voice is sound healing.
Mhm.
Humming is sound healing. Silence is sound healing. So when we're using bowls or rattles or anything, it's just a frequency. We're using
Mhm.
a frequency to just move energy, because you're
Mm.
already vibrating in a certain frequency. So when you start using other instruments, it's just weaving a new song, a new sound. So
Mhm.
whatever was there is just moving things out. It's like recalibrating the frequency. You
I'm
see
gonna
what?
take a pause for the cause and welcome some people. Oyenike, she says, "Peace, sisters. Peace to you." We have Andrea. Yes, it's all love, agape love, ashe. And then we have Selfless Alan just came in as well. Yes, MAM. This is how we roll through the matrix. And then we and then we also have Jasmine Johnson. Peace and love to you as well. Guys, if this is your first time to the channel, I want to say welcome to you. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, the like button, share the live if you're enjoying. We're going to be wrapping up shortly, but share the live if you like what you've been hearing thus far. Okay, so back to sound healing. So you talk about the clap. So that didn't. I've spent my whole 20s in the church. By the way, I didn't
Okay.
grow up Christian.
Okay.
I ended up I would say my first, if someone was to say a religion, which I know Rastas don't even like to say is a religion, but my first introduction to the Bible was through Rasta, right? Because I was growing up in the islands. And so in my 20s, I was in college in New York. And I ended up in a Pentecostal holiness church, right? And so when you say, I was like, yeah, they get down in there, right? And I've been there my whole 20s, and it's interesting. It's only after someone passed, an elder passed, I went back up to visit, not to visit, but to attend the funeral. And they got into the, and it's funny because I don't know, something in me was aware of an energy shift that was
Yes.
happening, right? And then it all came back to me on my time spent in the church, and it is an energy shift. And it's
Yeah.
very interesting because I shared on my Facebook one time, one of the things that we do in my house. I have two boys, and one of the things that I do, if my husband does something, and I know he might be feeling down, if he comes in, I'll tell the boys, let's just start clapping. Right. And we'll just start clapping. I've done this to my son where you just clap, walk a circle around them clapping. And I share this on my Facebook and how that breaks up the energy. And it's very interesting because you begin to see the disposition of the person shift, which
Right.
lets you know there's something happening there. So when you mention the clap, I'm like, hey, that's something that I know. I definitely know.
You
I'm familiar
notice,
with.
you notice how every time you ask me a question, I shifted from what you may expect me to talk about. You see what
Yes,
I'm saying?
yes,
And,
yes.
and all I'm showing is that we have the tools. We are the
We are
tools.
the tools. Yes, yes.
You know,
Yes,
so when
yes.
people come to me, a lot of times they'll be expecting, oh, I'm going to her for a reading, or I'm going to her. They're going to get so much more than what I can put in a description on the
Yeah.
website or what, because when you show up, I'm going to cater to whatever it is that you need. So it's like,
Mm.
and I say it's kind of like a setup, because a lot of times people don't even have any words for what they experience, because it's
Yes.
beyond words. It's beyond like even saying, oh, I had Reiki. It's just like, I don't know what that was, but ah, ooh, I never felt like this before. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, it's beyond any words that we can put on it. So that's why you asked me about sound bowl. I'm like, this right here, though. Let's not
Yes.
forget, this right here is just as valuable. So if you don't have a singing bowl, you don't have a rattle, you ain't got to go buy nothing. Use your
Mm.
hands. Use
I,
your
yeah,
hands.
I love how you demystify these things, because I think this is important, because it's this idea of, there's a lot of people dealing with that, where they have the gifts, Kamilah. They have the gifts, they know they do. But it's like, oh, well, I'm not certified. Oh, I can't do this. I don't have this tool. I don't know how to, and just you demystifying is those terms, Reiki and song healing, because when we think of song healing now, because of the definition that's attached to the word. Like,
Of
people think
course.
that's why I said bowls and all of that type of stuff.
Of course. Of course. Of
Right.
course.
So I appreciate that so much. The song healing piece. You say let's just start with clap, alone. But I want to shift also too, and then I'm gonna take guys, and we're gonna be taking questions after this. So make sure that you guys ask your questions so I can bring it to Kamilah. But I wanted to talk about plant medicine. So you said that's one of your tools of healing.
Yeah.
Um,
I love it. I
oh,
love
you do.
I do. Like, I love it. Like, what I've learned with working with plant medicine is that it only communicates to a part of the medicine that's already inside of you.
Mhm.
So, even when you take the medicine, it's not that the medicine is not already there. You're just inviting it in to have a deeper conversation with it. You're now saying, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. What is it that you have to tell me? What messages is it that is there for me, or instructions that is there for me? What is it that I need to release? What is it that needs to die now? Like, what you're having those conversations when you are integrating with plant medicine. And so there's no conversation that I've never had during any plant medicine ceremony that wasn't already there. So it's kind of like going into plant medicine, you begin to finish the
Mm.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the conversation has already started, but it
I
hasn't been
agree.
finished. So the plant medicine comes in and says, okay, now let's finish this conversation. And then we can address the other things that are there also. So yeah, one thing we always say is that, there are medicines, but we are the medicine. There's
Mm.
a lot of times, like, I'm so sensitive that I can just hold medicine in my hand and I can experience it. I don't even have
Mm.
to put it into my body, because we have the same vibration and frequency as whatever it is that we put in our bodies, unless it's foreign, of course, which there's a lot of things that we put into our bodies that are foreign and don't vibrate the same language that we do. But as far as everything that is made by the creator as we are, it has the same language as we do. So when we take it into our system, we're just having that conversation.
Mm.
So when you eat a real apple, that apple is going to have a conversation with your body, because it's actually natural. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Comes to herbs, is going to do the same thing. They're designed in such a way that they naturally have a natural conversation, a natural relationship. They're designed to work together. When we
Mm.
talk about
Okay.
medicine, I'm like, yeah, but we are the medicine. And again, it's not doing anything, um, or not have it's not doing anything just from it, you taking it into yourself, that isn't already there. So whatever it is binding with and communicating with is already there. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to ask around plant medicine. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and step out here and say I'm gonna bring up cannabis. Okay.
Okay.
So, because I know that's something that a lot of people in our community use for different reasons, by the way.
You're welcome.
I actually, for me personally, I have a level of respect. And again, I used to be a Rasta, and so there's a certain level of respect for cannabis that I have. I do believe that there we could cross over into abuse of anything,
Yes,
um
absolutely.
and I think that when we're talking about plant medicine, does cannabis fall in that category? And how do we transition our people from abusing it to utilizing it as a tool for healing? How does that happen?
So it certainly is a medicine.
Okay.
It certainly is a healing tool. But yes, in today's time, like a lot of people are abusing it, and they have an addiction, you
Yes.
know, so it's
Yes.
just an addiction. And a
Mhm.
lot of times it's an avoidance from feeling themselves because a lot of times it brings about another feeling. And so again, there goes the avoidance of actually feeling yourself. And so
Okay.
one of the messages that we share amongst our collective with our tribe is, you know, to not smoke,
Okay.
because what has been told to us is that smoking is what brings down the vibration. Even though
Okay.
people be like, I be getting high, I be high, and I be still getting messages, and this is how I meditate and all of that. But
Yeah.
it's like you shouldn't need anything to exist in that state. You should want to do whatever it takes to exist in that state just very naturally. And
Mm-hmm.
if you are going to partake in the medicine, then consume it as a medicine, drink it, put it
Mm.
in your foods, you know, use it that way. So this is how we encourage our sisters to do it, because we do have sisters in our tribe. They be like, sis, I don't know. And you know, but they do see the fact that it is an addiction. So what we
Yeah.
do is encourage them to fast from it. That's the first thing, is like to break it, is
Mm-hmm.
to fast from it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
if you can't do that, then what I always say, then now you've shown yourself to be a slave of it. So
Mm-hmm.
are you using it, or is it using you? You
Mm-hmm.
know, at this point. So the first thing would be to separate yourself from it in that capacity. And if you do desire, is just getting to know and getting to have a new relationship with it then from the first one that you had. Because a lot of times when people started smoking, it may have been years ago. The thing is that you're probably not even operating in that same consciousness anymore. You
That's
know,
true.
so breaking that habit and allowing and creating a new opportunity, a new relationship is going to bring about a new relationship. So this is one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I always encourage, is to eat it, drink it, put it in a tea, something like that, but use it as a medicine as opposed to just smoking it, because smoking is going to create acid and mucus inside of the body, which further creates some kind of disease and
Mm-hmm.
all kind of other stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
but this is what we say.
Yeah, that's a big one. And for me, when you just said that too, I remember a story with my one of my friends. She was dating this guy, and she was talking to him about the smoking piece, and I agree with the mucus buildup, just within the body, just from smoking, and he kind of had some traumas or whatever, and so they were dating, and I guess with her being in his life, she's kind of been encouraging him to kind of, pull back a little bit from
Mhm.
smoking, because it was clearly a dependency. He had a dependency issue, right?
Right.
And what she wasn't ready for, though, and she and I was able to kind of talk through it, is that as he began to like stop, she experienced and was introduced to a side of him that
Woo,
smoking was suppressing.
woo.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So when when you tell someone to just stop, you better be ready to deal with the emotions that they've been suppressing through smoking, right? The trauma, right? The lack of self-worth, whatever those things are, because that's what it is.
Yeah,
You made
this
a point.
rehabilitation is needed at that point.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's why we thrive better, we grow better, we are more accountable, we're more disciplined operating amongst community. Like
Community.
really trying to do it by yourself is not impossible, because we're capable of doing anything. But when you have support, which we are supposed to have, that's what will make something like this even better. Because I mean, you know, it will be rehabilitation. Like you would need
Mm-hmm.
that support to make certain transitions, but everybody don't need that, but sometimes, you know,
Yes.
many do.
I mean, we can go just from the basic, coming off of sugar,
Right.
and how
Oh,
people how people be acting when they've gone like a couple of days without sugar. Just the first 24 hours is like treacherous for some people, because they're not because that's another thing that people are using to suppress, to not
right.
feel themselves, like you mentioned. So when you're like no sugar, because this is the thing. When we talk about addiction, people jump to drugs all the time, right? And
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, you know how many of us have food addiction, sugar addiction, like we're addicted to television, like
Yes.
social media, like
Yes.
it's so many different addictions. Like everyone, like people have their vices, so it's not okay to just point out because it's the feet on the corner and they look sick and heroin is doing this to them. But just sitting right in your house, never hit a crack pipe in your life, but you have a serious addiction problem to sugar. Because if I take away your sugar tomorrow, you might cuss me out. You
Yeah.
might even fight me. Like
Yeah.
that's a real thing. So
I I had one of my relatives, like, like they came to stay with me for a while, and
yeah.
I noticed that they had an alcohol problem. Because once I can be around a person, not for it don't take long, and I'm like, oh, I see now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I had done told him we don't do all that drinking here. We doing drinking, we doing ceremony, we do, it's not, we're not just hanging around just drinking,
Mm-hmm.
So he did get it, and I was like, oh, okay, but you're not about to just keep drinking. So I took the bottle and I hid it. Let me tell you, me and my brother,
You did not.
we had a good conversation since then. That man was so upset with me, but I'm just like, I love you enough for you to be mad at me. You can feel however you want to feel with me, but I love you more than you love yourself right now to take this bottle away from you, because what you drinking it for? Like
Yeah.
what you I'll be telling them like, how y'all want to get? What y'all looking? What feeling are
Yeah.
you looking for?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And so my point in that part is that be ready for what you are not experiencing from that person because of their addiction. Because once you remove that vice or whatever that thing is that they're addicted to, be ready to deal with the parts of themselves that they are suppressing or running away from, or those emotions that
Yeah.
they're numb to, that they refuse to feel. Be
Mhm.
prepared to deal with that, right? It's not enough to just say go cold turkey, because I'm telling you, you're gonna get cursed out probably. Okay, so be like you just said, you're like, be mad at me because you're prepared, this is the work that you do, but everyone is not there. And it's like, well, why can't you just stop? Because I'm like, do you understand that some people will unravel if they were to put that cannabis down, if they
But
were
see,
to
this
come.
is the thing.
Mhm.
The thing is that even if you unravel, so be it. You
Exactly. No,
understand?
but unraveling, Camilla, unraveling, sis.
I know, I get it. I get it, but I'll be like, but that's a part of the healing.
I agree. I
Yeah, that's a
agree.
part of the
You
healing.
and I understand that, but the person who is unraveling don't understand
They
that,
don't
and the
understand
and the
that.
person who doesn't have that level of consciousness don't understand that. Is they'll just check them off as, man, are you crazy? I'm separating myself from you. But the what other someone had a question about your plant medicine. I wanted to get to that real quick. He says, Wisdom asks, can she name a couple of Reiki techniques? Well, I guess some others, and plant medicines that are helpful and easy to get.
So the when I did slide my eyes over to see the comment the first time, the first answer was breath.
Mm.
The first technique is breath, because a lot of times people are not breathing. And if you ain't breathing, you ain't gonna move nothing, because you ain't even breathing. So the
Mm.
first technique would be to engage your breath and really working on breathing techniques and taking the time to just sit and just breathe with yourself, deep breaths in with yourself. And
Mhm.
it's something as simple as like charging your hands. Again, we talked about the clapping. You can charge your hands by rubbing your hands and just feeling your energy, and just lay your hands on yourself. And as you lay your hands on yourself, just taking deep breaths in and out. You're just taking the time to just be present with yourself and just pour energy into yourself.
Mhm.
If you're familiar with your chakras, like, working your way down over every center, not being in a rush, just being there, being very present, and just laying hands on yourself. That
Mhm.
would be the first thing to do, is
Mhm.
breathing, and just laying hands on yourself and being present with yourself. So that
Mhm.
would be the first form, would be breath. That's the first thing that I heard with them bars when you asked that question, was breath. Because
Breath.
breathing and just breathing can move. Like a lot of times
Mm.
people in their heads, but if you stop and you just start acknowledging your breath, you won't even be in your head anymore.
Mm. Mm.
And if you can deepen your practice even more to intentionally just go within yourself and connect with certain parts of your body that you may feel that you are disconnected from. Like the first thing that I would hear is the heart. So just taking time to just sit with yourself and just listen to your heart. Like, what is it that my heart has to say to me? What is it that my heart is speaking? What is it that my heart is feeling? And just take the time to just sit and listen for what answers come. Because just having that conversation alone, you're going to get answers back because you asking questions that you never asked before. So you're going to get some answers that you probably know the answer to already. But now you're actually hearing it for yourself. And now when those answers start to come to the surface, now what are you going to do with it? So the whole point of going into it is for you to get the instructions and then follow the instructions. And then the movement happens in the midst of all of that. As far as plant medicine, the first thing that came to my mind is Hape.
Can you spell that?
Can one of my sisters that's on the call put it in there? It's Rapeh.
Okay.
Or they spell it Hape.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
But usually it's Rapeh.
Okay.
And
What is that good for?
So what that does is it just goes in and it opens up like the third eye. So it's good to help like remove like blockages in like the third eye and the crown area. I also have heard the medicine say that it clears in the throat and down into the heart. So what it does is it's going to move energy and it's going to create mucus, which is going to be the removal of that blocked up energy. And so it brings about this sense of like clarity and gratitude. And it just feels like you feel like you on another level. So it's not a like psychedelic, it's nothing like that, but it definitely is an experience.
Okay. What if I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna make it personal to you. What is your favorite plant medicine to work with? And why?
My favorite plant medicine. I don't have a okay. So I was about to say I don't have a favorite, but I do. But even though you have a favorite doesn't mean that you work with it all the time.
Right.
So that was the conversation that I just had to have with myself. I'm like, well, I don't have a favorite. I don't really. But it was like, hold on, wait a minute. You know I'm your favorite. Okay, so ayahuasca would be my favorite. Ayahuasca would be my favorite because there's a certain way that the medicine communicates with you to bring about release in a way that I've never experienced before. So it's like I've had, and I'm gonna tell you, like, there was years, probably, I don't know how many years, probably about 5 to 7 years that I heard about ayahuasca, and I was completely afraid. Remember, we were talking about the word fear, right? So I was still a little bit a slave then when I was afraid. But then there became a time when I'm like, dang, I am the psychedelic. I have all kind of experiences just naturally. So I'm like, well, let me go see what happens. And what I expected to experience in my first sitting did not happen. I'm like, shoot, I'm about to be throwing up. I'm about to be, all kind of things about to be happening. But when I took the medicine, the first thing that came up is you always working. So it's like a grandmother. They call ayahuasca the grandmother medicine.
Yeah.
She's like, you always working. You need to rest. So she just put me in this resting space and I just felt held. I still was allowed to feel in a certain vibration. The vibration was very high and beyond this plane. It was like I was sitting in another dimension, but in this space, but it felt very different. But it's just the way that she communicates and guides. And, and I'm like, and I know that that's a spirit that I naturally possess, but it's matured even more since I had been working with ayahuasca. So I know that I'm like grandmother energy, so, but ayahuasca would be my favorite.
Wow. Okay. And it's funny because I've heard quite a few women over the last few years say the same thing, that has been the most intense and introspective plant medicine that they've worked with.
It's nothing like the mother.
It's nothing like the mother.
Especially when you open yourself to receive all that is there. She, like, the medicine will completely guide you in releasing all of those things. Like she had me going through my records with my father, with past partners, and all of this stuff.
Wow.
And even during I had my last ayahuasca sitting last year, and there was a heartbreak that I could not shake.
Wow. Okay.
When I said with Aya, in the woods, under the full moon, around the fire. Coming out of that ceremony, I no longer felt that heartbreak anymore. So it helped me
Wow.
to release, you know what I mean? Whatever that energy was that was still there, that's all that it does. And I mean, I'm sitting there because the way that I got introduced into ceremony, I was assisting and on the medicine at the same time. So I didn't come in like everybody else,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
to ayahuasca ceremony. No, I came in of service and on the medicine at the same time. So I'm like, all right, let me get my medicine in. Let me get my session in first because I got to take care of me first. Once I take care of me, now I can be here for my people. So yeah,
Yeah. One of the things that I believe, and and yeah, I see your comment. I'm coming to you shortly. One of the things that I think, this is just my own personal belief around plant medicine. A lot of people, this is also becoming trendy, by the way.
absolutely everything is
The,
now.
the whole plant medicine conversation, but
People take an ayahuasca every day, but go ahead.
yes, and I tell people, for me, there's like a few things I don't play around with, and one of them is spirituality.
Ashe.
Like I'm not a person where I'm gonna pretend to hear what I did not hear and connect with what I did not connect with and talk about other dimensions that I have not explored. I'm not that person, right? And so for me, I truly believe that in working with plant medicine, you have had to have worked with plant medicine on yourself. And then, even then, in conversing with people about plant medicine, you need to make them understand that your journey is yours
Yes,
and
yes,
mine is mine. Because people like to ask the question, oh my gosh, Kamilah, what did you see? What happened? Like, it's like, what I saw isn't what you will see.
right,
What I had to work through on the medicine is not yours.
right,
Your heartbreak is not my heartbreak, right? Your
right,
trauma may not be my trauma, even though it might be the same type of trauma.
right.
Our experience of that trauma is still different, and therefore the work has to be done differently. So one of the things I truly believe about plant medicine is that, listen, you can't just come in talking about, I'm just going to work with this, and you haven't even worked with the medicine on yourself, so that you can actually have those genuine conversation with those people who are coming in just really. I like to say people are searching. People are searching for themselves. People are trying to remember. That is really what's happening right now. People are literally trying to remember. And the fear that they're experiencing is that,
Right.
what am I going to remember? They're not sure. And that could be scary.
Yeah.
I want to go to Inya. She has a question for you. She says, earlier you mentioned you are a doula. Have you
Right.
seen an increase in women having home births?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
We all are returning back to nature. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women are coming back to the realization of their power and are choosing the terms of their deliveries. So they want to have full power and authority over how they bring their children into the world. So a lot of them are choosing to have them at home. And I just recently, my last birth was a home birth, and the beauty, and I just have to share this, the beauty about this sister, she didn't go to no doctors, none of her pregnancy. She didn't have no doctor visits, no ultrasounds. She had a completely
Wow.
free pregnancy, free birth, no medicine, everything at home, just preparing her body, eating good, drinking her teas. And I'm pretty sure she had a little bit of fear, but the fear did not stop her from being who she knows she was capable of being. So yeah, a lot of sisters are returning back to the knowing of they don't have to be in no hospital, because there was a time those hospitals didn't exist. And we see that a lot
Mm,
of people are being traumatized just from the experience of giving birth in these hospitals.
mm,
What I realized in this last birth is that the real medicine, it comes from the support and it comes from the love that is surrounding you. Because she just like it, she just pushed that baby right on out of there. You know what I mean? Real medicine. We are the medicine. You know,
mm,
so yes, sis, I'm grateful that you asked that question, because we need to know that we have the power to do that, and we don't need what these people have told us that we need, and we don't have to be afraid to trust what our bodies is designed to do. And I'm grateful to see a lot of women returning to that trust and their own ability to do what their bodies is designed to do. So yes.
Ashe. So we're gonna be closing up, and so I want you to start wrapping up by discussing a few, okay, so we're going, how can I ask this? Okay, considering the energy of this time that we're in,
All
right? What is most needed to be focused on? Not just as individuals, but also as a collective. But I want you to start with the individual. What is most needed in this time? What is it that you are hearing Spirit saying that is important for individuals to do at this time?
to believe in yourself.
Mm.
Believe in yourself, because this is a time for us to rise in our power, and it's going to start with the belief in knowing what we hold inside of us, that is going to shift and change the narrative of what we've been experiencing for such a long time. So that will
Mhm.
be the first thing, and in doing so, the instruction is also to tap into your creative gifts, tap into what it is that you feel you are being led and called to do, because whatever that thing is needed, and whatever that thing is the medicine, whatever that thing is the message, and whatever that thing is the ministry. And
Mhm.
and from operating in that place, then we can do so as a collective, because
Mhm.
this is what we're all being called to do, as you have been called to do and speak in such a platform. And I'm pretty sure there's many other things that you do, but you could have not ever opened up your mouth. You
Mhm.
could have ever not, like, had a YouTube page where you can have these conversations and these dialogues, which is medicine for the collective. So
Mhm.
we're being called to come out of the shadows.
Yeah, I heard another sister talk about that too. And actually, the brother Omawale that's saying he wants to interview you. Sister Neff talks about being called out the shadows,
Come out of the
and
shadows
yeah, and she was saying that
and bring the tools that it taught you.
yeah,
Yes, bring the tools that it
yes,
taught you.
yes. She was saying that there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of trendiness happening out here right now, and the true ones, and I do this in quotes here, meaning that those who have actually been doing the work are now being called to the forefront, and
Mhm.
called to the front and out of the shadows and out of the darkness to bring forth what ma, because that's what darkness is, ma. Okay, darkness is that feminine principle, that feminine, so coming out of that womb, what you learn while you were in that womb, and it's time for us to birth ourselves. And
Yes,
she was kind of, these are my words, but she was having that conversation on that platform where it's time to come out of the womb. It's time for us to birth ourselves and come out with what we have learned from mother while in the darkness,
yes,
and so I'm glad that you touched on that. So your main thing is believing in yourself and tap into your gifts.
yes.
Now I want you to in closing, when you say believe in yourself, is this something that you think has to be practiced? Because there's a lot of us who are
I will.
dealing with self-doubt
Mm,
because of the trauma you talked about, where
mhm.
it's like we're not just dealing with self-doubt, we're dealing with value, self-worth, right? And it's like, what am I good for? Who wants to hear what I have to say? I'm not the most well-spoken, I'm not the most educated, I was abandoned as a child. My mother didn't even love me. My father didn't even love me. And then we
So
are
then
telling,
the question
uh-huh.
is that the narrative that you want to keep for the rest of your life?
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want? Is that how you want to live for the rest of your life? Because it doesn't have to be that way. Yes, it's true.
Mm.
All of these things have happened. Yes, that doesn't mean that your experiences are not, you know what I mean, credible.
Mm-hmm.
But is that the only narrative that you want for the rest of your life? Because in that
Mm.
point, it's no longer who traumatized you that is to blame. It's no longer what you lacked or what you didn't have that is the blame. Now you're the one that is to blame. And so when
Yes.
you know that, how will you account for the fact that you're now choosing to live life as a victim instead of living in your victory? Because victory is promised to us all, but not all choose it. And to choose victory would mean that requirements of the work and the training through all of the darkness is just preparing you to come out of it to operate in the light, because the light is darker than the darkness. Okay.
Mm.
The thing is that we have to come out into it so that we can show what we gain from it. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Thank you for stating that, because I know a lot of people struggle with that, and just really questioning themselves. I usually say, go ahead, sis.
So the other thing was is that because I want to come back to the word belief, because
Okay.
belief is not the belief is just the start, but the whole point is to get to a place to where you believe in yourself, to where you know yourself, because we don't want to stay in belief. We want to
Mm-hmm.
come into knowing. When you come into knowing, there's no question. There's
Mm-hmm.
no denying. Now, when you believe something, we talk about belief system. We know the lie is in there somewhere. You know, we still may be feeding that narrative as well, but we want to practice believing in ourselves so that we can come into the resonance of knowing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to add that in. Yeah.
And I'll add to the knowing yourself. In order to know yourself, you actually have to be with yourself. You
Yes.
have to spend time with yourself, you know?
Intimacy. Back to what we talked about from the
Intimacy,
very beginning.
yes, come full circle.
Yes.
And yeah, I wanted to ask you that so you could speak to that, because I know oftentimes when you're telling people, I know I used to work with young people, when you're saying believe in yourself, the self that comes to their mind is the downtrodden self. But for me, what I know from my own experience is that the higher self is always with us,
Yes.
always calling us, always pulling us, always guiding us, always. And if you sit and you talk to people who may have that downtrodden self, when you ask them, when you see yourself as something more than what you feel like, what comes to your mind, and it's always their higher self. and
Yes.
and having them to understand that if you can see that and you can feel that, then that means that you can be that. So
Ashe.
I'm glad that you spoke to that. And then the last thing, tapping into your gifts, because I know you spoke earlier about being called, and now we're closing up with tapping in. So give me some practical things to someone that might be listening, where it's like they may think, they don't know for sure, they may think they have a gift, or they've been told they have a gift. What does that look like, that tapping in? What does that look like?
Tapping in again, it looks like listening, because
Mm-hmm.
again, you're going to hear. The thing is that whatever it is that you're called to do, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to hear it. But
Yeah.
a lot of times, what we do is fail to move.
Mm.
We fail to move every single time. We
Mm.
know what to do. We got the calling, and a lot of times we want to do it,
That's
but
true.
we're not making the moves. And I'm talking to some of my sisters right now because I know they feel that. But you're being called to move. All of those things are not just ideas. They're not
Mhm.
just things that are just on your mind.
Mhm.
This is where you're being called to. But the resistance the resistance that is there is showing you that it's time for you to step into it. So when we talk about step into your gifts, like this
Mhm.
is not like some magic trick or anything. Like your gift can come through anything. Your gift can come through
Mm.
writing. Your gift can come through speaking. Your gift can come through artistry. Your gift can come through music. Your gift can come through makeup. Your gift can come through anything.
Wow.
Anything that puts you in the position of being of service and adding value to this planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
you're sharing your gift, you're sharing yourself. But the first thing is that you got to know how to share it with yourself. If
Yes.
you know how to share it with yourself and receive it for yourself, then you're not ready to give it to anybody else. But what we usually do is
Mm.
be ready to give it to everybody else, and we haven't given it to ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
intimacy comes into play. And then, yes, share your gift.
Yes. Yes.
Share your
Okay.
gift. And then the last thing was, because this was a conversation we had earlier this week,
Okay.
and don't get caught up in looking for rewards. If you put in the
Woo.
work, rewards are going to come. So I just wanted to add that on the end too.
Ooh, that's a big one too. That's a big one. Well, I'm first of all, I'm gonna close out with telling you what I heard throughout this conversation.
Okay.
Because there was some threads going on. Okay.
Oh,
Um, you did not say it, but I heard it. Slow down. We need to slow down. When you talk about breathing, when you talk about sitting with self, that requires a level of slowing down. I
oh,
heard knowing,
yes.
knowing, not just believing, but actually eventually moving on and evolving into knowing. Okay. I heard demystify. That word keeps coming out because I love the way you talk
What's up?
about these things. Demystify. That is so, I mean, I don't even know if you realize how necessary the demystification of a lot of these things is, because people feel really removed from them because they really believe that they're these complex, because people like to really make things deeper than they really are, because they want to come off like They were.
Right. Right. I know.
So yes, the demystify piece, intentionality, being intentional with the things that we're doing, right? Remembrance.
Woo.
That has been my
Sankofa.
theme, by the way, just so you know. That has been my theme for the whole year because
Sankofa. I
yes,
can't do
I
no
have
year
been.
without saying Sankofa. I cannot do
Yes,
no year.
Sankofa. And it's very interesting. Yes, Sankofa. Because I've been really, that's been my theme for the whole year. And anyone that talks to me, they'll tell you I've been talking a lot about remembering self because I came to the realization that a lot of what's going on with me, it's just really memory. It's memory. It's just really bringing things back to memory. And I think a lot of it also happened because I really started doing a lot more ancestral work as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I think that's a part of it. But yes, one of the things that
Absolutely.
you also said that was significant is normal is not natural.
I will.
So differentiating between the two, do what's natural, what's not what's normal, because as we know it, there's a lot of toxic things that we have normalized.
I will.
Yeah, within this culture, within Western culture, that is normalized. We don't even bat an eye at it,
At
right?
all.
At all. But is it natural? So it's really asking that question. I know this is normal, but is it natural?
Right. Because
So
when
that.
it's natural, it's
Mhm.
gonna feed you. It's gonna do something for you.
Mm.
Things that are
Mm.
normal don't necessarily mean that it's gonna do something for you. And if it's doing something for you, it's surfaced.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. And then the last thing too is like really facing your fears.
I will.
Really facing your fears. And I'm glad like there's a lot of like different practices that are out there, and I we only touched on a few. And the plant medicine piece, I feel like that's one of the ways that people can face their fears, finding the courage to face those fears. And really, I tell people all the time, your fear is really here to teach you something about yourself that you just don't want to face for
Right.
whatever reason.
That's all
That's
it
not.
is.
That's all it is. That's all it is. And just to simplify, since we're simplifying stuff, because it really isn't that complex. It really isn't.
Right.
So those are some of the things that I took away. And I am feeling that I'm gonna have to have you back, and hopefully I catch you in a season where you are open to interviews.
I
But I'm already feeling that you'll be back. I already know that. There's a knowing I have
should.
within myself that you'll be back, and we're gonna delve a little deeper into some other things, and you're gonna come here with some stories to share that's just gonna lit us up. And so I'm really excited about that. Is there anything you want to say to myself, to the audience in closing before I let you go?
Well, I just wanted to say, gratitude for having me. I definitely am loving the likeness and the exchange and the conversation that we had. Like coming into this, I don't have no
Yes.
expectations. I don't try to make it anything. So I just like to show up and just, flow wherever it flows. I love to flow. So I appreciate that that was the
Mhm.
space that you provided.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that showed up and, shared some comments and, stayed with us, gave some questions and engage. Please share the video. Please do subscribe to our sister's YouTube page, Instagram page. She about to be popping her social media, right? That's what you said you about to be doing. She's coming out even more because that is her instruction. So thank you for answering the call, sis. And I'll be back whenever you're ready to have me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing in the community with women and with men. Thank you for showing us a different approach to dealing with the pain that our brothers are in and the pain that our sisters are in. And just not just focusing on pain, but focusing on who we are called to be and
Right.
helping our people to remember
Because the
themselves.
pain is a
Mhm.
part of your story. The pain is a part of your testimony. The pain is a part of your purpose. The pain is a part of your gift. So it plays a role. It's not there for no reason.
For no
It's not
reason.
there for us to stay there either.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you. Much gratitude to you, Kamilah. I'm not even gonna hold you any longer, but I'll be in touch, sis.
I
You
should.
enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of
Thank
your
you.
weekend.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you as well. Peace.
Alrighty. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Rhonda, I see you. You are gonna have to catch it on the replay, sis. It was such a really powerful conversation. I hope you're able to do that. And Unleashed, with Priestess Ifa Busayo. Thanks for coming through and showing us some love and support, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I hope you guys took away as much as I did, because I have a whole bunch of notes here, guys, a whole bunch. So I'm super excited about that. But I hope that you guys receive something out of this, and if not, that it provoked your spirit to begin to do the work that you already know. Because this is the thing, we be knowing, okay, but for you to just start stepping out and taking the steps towards what you know you already have to do. And so guys, until next time, I'm here every Friday at 5 p.m. I have another guest coming in on Friday. This time we're going to talk about healing through talk therapy. And yeah, until next time, guys, enjoy your weekend. Peace and blessings to you guys. Alrighty. Bye. Let's see. Let me see. All right.